if you guys can hear me okay. I only have about 15 minutes here before I got to get on a plane. So I'm still here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I went to the trial of Joshua Grover. If you haven't seen the video, it's on my page called Massive Injustice. It's a live stream that I did a few days ago. And I came here because the criteria that I use to help people is you have to be cheated by the cops or by government officials, and it's caught on camera, and your civil rights are violated. So, if we understand the criteria at which I function at and which Team Delete Lawz functions at, then you'll understand the reason why I came here. Vigilance committees in the chat. Michael Dolan, Clinton, what's going on? Stephen, how are you, buddy? Good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. I only got limited minutes, so do me a favor, double tap on your screen, hit the like button, tap on that screen for me, Les Paul. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hopefully this microphone I'm using works. I came here to Salt Lake City and I went up to Morgan, Utah for the trial of Joshua Grover. His page is called Twilight Real Estate Photography. I got to meet Josh. We had dinner together with another friend. Great people out here. Josh Grover is a really, really good person. I got to hang out with him for a couple days. The trial yesterday went from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. We arrived at the courthouse at about 7:30, and then we waited 30 minutes. We got in the courthouse. The verdict came in at 7:59 p.m. And I want to explain a little bit about what happened to Joshua Grover. If you guys know the video that I'm talking about on Twilight Real Estate Photography, Joshua was doing a job hired by a real estate company to go and take pictures of a townhouse. A townhouse is often a fourplex or fiveplex or sixplex or threeplex or twoplex. This particular townhouse was a fourplex. Joshua Grover went there, was taking pictures of the, the common areas, the amenities, the pickleball, the grass in the back. And while he was doing that, a Karen by the name of Bailey Turner, who showed up for court yesterday, a real Karen. You've never seen a Karen up close and personal until you see someone testify against another person. She testified against Josh Grover that he was taking pictures into her house, which he wasn't. The prosecution never subpoenaed the camera footage, the pictures, the video. So let me explain to you the whole process here at the Justice Court in Morgan, Utah. The judge would not allow the entire body worn camera to be submitted into evidence. Hey, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you. So the judge wouldn't allow the entire body worn camera into evidence. You guys do me a favor, tap on your screen if you're watching on your phone to hit the like button, hit the thumbs up if you're watching on your computer. We got 120 people. Let's get a few more likes and we'll get a few more people. And Joshua Grover is going to appeal. So let me explain what happened in the trial, and I'll try not to get distracted with bullshit social media stuff where I have to say, hit the like button. People's lives are on the line here. The criminal injustice industry is cheating people, and I got to sit here and say, hit the like button. It's just, eh. Anyway, I went to Joshua Grover's trial. We got there at 8 a.m. The judge then went through jury selection. And ironically, of the four jurors, the defense for Joshua Grover, who was Mary Couperon, which is Couporon. Mary Couperon is the top 50 female lawyers in the country. She's on Super Lawyers. As you guys know, I always tell people that if you're going to hire an attorney, you go to superlawyers.com and you hire an attorney off the Super Lawyers and you find someone who's been a super lawyer for several years. Well, Mary Couperon is a super lawyer. She's been a super lawyer for 15 years. She's ranked as one of the top 50 attorneys in the entire country and quite possibly the number one female defense attorney in Utah. She lost. She lost. And it's not that she did a bad job defending Joshua Grover. She didn't do a bad job. It was that the deck was stacked against her. So let me give you a few of the things that happened. The body worn camera that the cop is wearing on his chest, the body worn camera, just like this. Yeah, that's right. Mary, it's Couperon. Mary Couperon. Couporon. Google her. She is a hell of an attorney, and she's a really nice person, by the way. I got to talk with her a little bit. But anyway, so the body worn camera that the cops wear was not allowed, the entire body worn camera was not allowed to be submitted into evidence. Where Joshua Grover tells the cops, look at the footage on my camera. Go take a look at my camera footage. And the cop says, oh, well, you could have deleted some photos where Josh was apparently taking pictures inside of the Karen's house, a woman named Bailey Turner. So, so he was shooting on a 14 millimeter lens. If you don't know anything about lenses of photography, a 14 millimeter lens is like this, not like this. This would be a 60 millimeter. This is a 14 millimeter lens, like this, gigantic. It's a huge, wide shot. So the court wouldn't allow all the body worn camera in. Josh's pictures and videos were not submitted into evidence. They get up there. The judge tells the lawyer, Mary Cooperan, that she cannot explain to the jury what reasonable articulable suspicion, what probable cause is. They weren't allowed to have an evidentiary hearing or a probable cause hearing. Okay. So then when Mary Cooperan brings up the point that Joshua Grover offered to show the police his camera footage, it's objected to and sustained. That part of the evidence is not allowed in. Not allowed in. Furthermore, when the cops both admit that what Joshua Grover was doing was completely legal, that he had a reason to be there, he wasn't trespassing, nothing he did was illegal. Now, I'm going to do a full breakdown on this because there's something that we really have to have a discussion about, and we're going to have that discussion this week. I'm going to do a long form video. It's going to take me a day or two to make it, but I'm going to make a video. Everybody here, if you're in a stop and ID state, and there's 22 stop and ID states, so 40% of America is a stop and ID state. It's in your trifold, and it's worded and it's correct in your trifold. It's correct on your cop cards. There's a caveat here. There's a but. The 2004 case of Heibel versus 6th Judicial Court of Nevada states that when a peace officer stops you with reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime, now at that point, if the cop stops you or someone calls about you, which gives them RAS according to their belief system, when the cop shows up in front of you and he says, what's your name? You have to give him your first and last name. This was talked about yesterday in court. In stop and ID states, right? You're going along, you're walking down the street, all of a sudden you're surrounded by 3 cop cars and they say, we got a call that someone was throwing rocks at cars. Let's just say. When the cops come up to you, that phone call that they got is reasonable articulable suspicion. Not that they have to show up on the scene, take a look at what's going on and go, nobody's throwing rocks. I have no reasonable articulable suspicion here. So this is over. No, no, no. The phone call itself is enough to have reasonable articulable suspicion against you. Now, that comes from an extension of Terry versus Ohio in 1968. The entire reasonable articulable suspicion phrase was created by Terry versus Ohio. Before that, it was a Fourth Amendment probable cause supported by oath or affirmation that before the cops could detain you or arrest you. 1968, that changed to reasonable articulable suspicion. 1972, in a case called Adams versus Williams, the Supreme Court did a holding that said a phone call is enough to establish reasonable articulable suspicion against you. Jump ahead to 2004. 30 years later, in the 2004 case of Heibel versus Nevada 6th Judicial Court of Nevada, the Supreme Court then said that if a cop has reasonable articulable suspicion and comes up to you and says, I have reasonable suspicion that you have committed a crime or in the act of committing a crime or plan on committing a crime, you have to tell the cop your first and last name. And I have to share this with everybody. In the trifold, it says that you don't have to give ID even with reasonable articulable suspicion. The trifold is correct. That's 100% correct. It's not wrong. Your trifold is correct. But if you're in a stop and ID state and the cops stop you and they say, we have reasonable articulable suspicion because somebody called on you, you have to give them your first and last name and possibly your date of birth. My name is Jose Maria. If you run my name in Los Angeles, California, it may come back that Jose Maria has a warrant. Then, if I don't give my date of birth, the cops will assume Pringle 2000. The Pringle case says that they can assume that Jose Maria with the warrant is me. So remember this, if you're in a stop and ID state and the cop says he has RAS because somebody called, that RAS is completely legal because of Adams versus Williams in 1972. Then the fact that you have to give them your first and last name is based on the 2004 case of Heibel, Hiibel, versus Nevada 6th Judicial Court. It is such a fucking scam. Joshua Grover was found guilty yesterday of failure to ID and resisting arrest. Let me go a little further. If the cop tells you to turn around and put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest or I'm detaining you. Joshua Grover was holding his $7,000 camera in his hands where he has been a professional real estate photographer for the past 12 years. The cops on the scene confirmed with the real estate agent that she had sent him there to do a job. When they said, turn around and put your hands behind your back, Joshua Grover had his, let's say this is his camera, he had his $7,000 camera in his hand. So the cop said, put your hands behind your back, you're being detained. Joshua took his right hand and put it behind his back. The cop went to go grab this hand that had the $7,000 camera in it. And so Joshua took his right hand, grabbed his camera, and put his left hand behind his back so that Deputy Green could detain him. Because he took his hand away from Deputy Green to secure the camera here, that was resisting, and he was convicted because of that. Because the camera in front of him, his livelihood in his hand, the cop took this hand, put it behind his back, went to go pull this arm behind his back. So he said, oh, shoot, he wants this arm. So then he grabbed the camera with this arm, put this arm behind the back. And then the cop said, you're resisting me, and got aggressive. The other cop came over, said, let me take the camera. Josh then took the camera and gave it to the other cop. Then he took his other hand and matched it. You can see it on camera, both wrists come together, right? But because he didn't drop the camera on the ground and put both of his wrists behind his back immediately, they convicted him of resisting. That much. If you do any act that is in resistance to the officer detaining you here in the state of Utah, that's resisting arrest, and they convicted him of it. When they said, what's your name? Because they got a phone call, and he said, hey, I'm not saying nothing. Am I being detained or am I free to go? They never answered the question. Florida versus Royer, 1983, says that if a cop says, hey, come over here, you have the right to ask, am I being detained or am I free to go? The cops never answered him until he was already in cuffs and being arrested. So it was a it was a total shit show. It was a total shit show. So now Josh has to appeal. And this reminds me of a conversation that I had with James Freeman. I texted James yesterday and I said, you were right, man, because he was right. The criminal injustice industry doesn't give a shit about you. They have their agenda. Their goal is to arrest you, put you in cuffs, take you to the dungeon, and steal your money. And the old lie that, is Chevy in here? Chevy, are you in here? Where you at? Where you at? Chevy, you in here? I don't know if Chevy's in here or not. Big shout out to my man Chevy. Anyway, so the criminal injustice industry has a motivation, and their motivation is to protect the cops even when they're wrong. So when the cops got there yesterday, Deputy Green and Officer Boots, the guy's name is Boots, when they got there, immediately they went to the homeowner and said, does this man have a right to be taking pictures of your townhome? The townhome was in a quadplex, 4 different individual units. Karen lived next door. Karen has called in unit 3. He's shooting pictures for unit 1 to sell it. He has to shoot all of the surrounding property. So Karen calls the cops from unit 3. The cops get there, go to unit 1 and say, "Did you hire this guy to come take pictures?" They say, "Yes, we did." They call the real estate agent. Did you hire this guy to come here and take pictures?" The real estate agent says, "Yes, I did." At that point, there's no probable cause. They didn't allow Josh to have a probable cause hearing. If you can't have a probable cause hearing, remember, my appeal was successful and I was released from the dungeon because I couldn't be resisting an unlawful arrest if an unlawful arrest wasn't happening. That's why both of my charges of obstructing and resisting were dismissed and taken off my record. Joshua Grover, he didn't get a probable cause hearing because once the cops got there, Unit 3 had called and said, "Someone's here taking pictures of my house." They got there, they went to Unit 1. Unit 1 said, "Yes, I hired him." They called a real estate agent. "Yes, I hired him." No probable cause. At that point, the interaction is over. But that's not what happened. What happened was Officer Boots, who, I met Boots yesterday. I talked to him. I talked to all these cops. You guys know I've taken a different approach with cops. I'm super nice, super respectful, even though I know at least half of them are tyrant bastards. I know that. I still talk to them and treat them with respect and dignity because it's going to go in front of a judge. The judge sustained 6 of the prosecution objections and sustained 1 of Mary Cooperan, Josh Grover's counsel. Sustained 1 of his objections. I'm just looking because I've got to fly out of here. I'm going to have to shut this thing down in a second, and I got to get the flock out of here. Thanks a lot for the super chat. I really appreciate it. This trip was expensive. Thank you guys for your support. I really, really appreciate you. I still have about 5 more minutes, so I'll sit here and bloviate a little bit more. So now, here was the thing that was really, really telling. Thank you for that super chat. I appreciate it. So here's the thing that was really telling to me and something that I need to learn and I need to understand. So first and foremost, there's a double-edged sword here. You have to have an attorney, unless you know court procedure inside and out, or you have to have a standby attorney, because the body-worn camera that Deputy Green was wearing, which, by the way, Deputy Green was a Utah highway patrolman. He resigned before the investigation finished. Deputy Green had been arresting people for fake DUIs. That's why he got ran off at the Utah Highway Patrol. He resigned and ended up at the Morgan City Police in Morgan, Utah. That wasn't allowed into evidence. She tried to bring it up, Mary Cooperan did, to show the jury that he's not a trustworthy witness. It wasn't allowed to be admitted into court that Deputy Green had previously resigned for arresting people for fake DUIs. So then the body-worn camera, they say, "Hey, this is what was said on the body-worn camera." The prosecution objects and says that's hearsay. I don't understand how a body-worn camera worn by a police officer, I don't understand how that is hearsay. Is that Wilderness Pig? Wilderness Pig with 50 gifted memberships. Holy snarling snake shit. Thanks a lot, Wilderness Pig. I really appreciate that. You dirty Wilderness Pig. Anyway, the trial yesterday was nothing short of a kangaroo court. It was an absolute, total, and complete kangaroo court. No probable cause hearing, no evidentiary hearing. The body-worn camera was not allowed to be put into evidence. Anything said on the body-worn camera, not anything, but a lot of the things said on body-worn camera were called hearsay. Then the witnesses who could be impeached, that they shouldn't even be allowed to testify, was objected and not allowed in court. Then they didn't call Joshua Grover to testify, who could have been the witness that I'm holding my camera in my hand. I have to switch hands and hold my camera before I'll put both wrists behind my back. As soon as Boots took the camera out of his hand, he then put both hands behind his back. But that one tiny, where I don't want to say the word resistance, that one tiny slip up, that one tiny nuance, the one normal human thing that if you're holding your $7,000 camera in your hand and he puts one hand behind your back. When he goes to pull your hand behind your back, he pulled the other hand away, grabbed his camera, put his other hand behind his back. The act of taking the hand away to grab the camera to put his other hand behind his back, that's why the jurors convicted him of resisting, for simply taking his hand away and grabbing his $7,000 camera that is his livelihood. Wilderness Pig with 50. Where's Chevy? Let's OTVO. Yeah, it was a reasonable reaction. Let's OTVO. Nero Dallas got a free membership. Man, all you guys got memberships. Thanks, Wilderness Pig. I appreciate it. Thanks, you guys, for the super chats. A few have come in. I'm super grateful. God bless you guys. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We don't stop. We don't stop. We don't stop. We don't stop. Put it in the chat for me, please. We don't stop. So I'm going to do a full deep dive on this week. I'm going to make a long form video here, and I'm going to explain the process of how Terry versus Ohio turned into Adams versus Williams, turned into Heibel versus Nevada 6th Judicial Court, which now says that if you're in one of the 22 stop and ID states, if the cop states, I have reasonable articulable suspicion that you have committed, you're in the act of committing, or you're planning on committing a crime, if you don't give the cop your first and last name, you now can be charged with failing to ID, put in torture cuffs, arrested, charged, and get a criminal record for simply standing silent and invoking your fifth without saying it. If you guys watch the video on Wild Journey Nation Free Press in the chat, what's up, Playboy? What's up, Playboy? Big shout out to Wild Journey Nation. If you guys are not subscribed to her channel, this woman has backed me up on 2 different occasions. She went and picked up my friends Let's OTVO and Brick from the dungeon when they were wrongfully arrested. And then when I went to Oklahoma last month to help Heather Chandler, she showed up there and she backed me up again. So big shout out to Wild Journey Nation in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you. Jennifer Hill's in the chat. Chad's in the chat. Man, I appreciate that. Who's been a member 10 months? Is that right? Eat, Pray, Love, Joy? 10 months, huh? Happy to be a part of Team DLZ. Put it in the chat, Team DLZ. Listen, I'm not going to stop. Are you going to stop? Who in here is going to stop? Put in the chat, we don't stop, Fresh Toast. Put it in the chat, we don't stop. Chevy! Plinker for Life is in here. We don't stop. We are not going to stop. And when you guys see what I'm working on with several other YouTubers, I think I saw First Amendment Protection Agency in here. Are you still in here, First Amendment Protection Agency? I'm sorry, I just saw your name flash by for a second, but I was in the middle of a speech here. So anyway, I've got about 3 minutes here, and I got to go jump on that plane. So I better get the flock out of here. Let's OTVO. Let's OTVO. When you guys see what I'm working on with First Amendment Protection Agency and Brian and Chuck Bronson and a list of other YouTubers, when you see what we're doing, and several people who are not necessarily YouTubers, but are involved with what we're doing, when you find out and you see the extent at which we have gone to create something amazing, you'll understand why I stopped working on that board game and I did this. There's only one of me. I can't be in 20 places. So you can only do one thing really, really well. So anyway, big deep dive this week on Heibel. Be ready to hear that. Be ready to learn about Heibel. If you're in a stop and ID state, please hear me now. Cops walk up to you, say, we have reasonable articulable suspicion. On your cop cards in your trifold, it's correct. You don't have to give your ID. But if they say they have legitimate, reasonable, articulable suspicion, and they can articulate to you, oh, we think you're being a stalker, a prowler, or a voyeur, at that point, you have to give him your first and last name and possibly your date of birth. Please hear me and please tell your friends. Heibel screws us. It pretty much eliminates the Fifth Amendment. Because what if I say my name is Jose Maria and you run my name and I have a warrant? Now I've incriminated myself in a crime because I have a warrant for my arrest. We are living in a backwards, fucked up system, y'all. He didn't get an evidentiary hearing. He didn't get a probable cause hearing. He couldn't get the body-worn camera and evidence. The cop who had resigned because he was a liar, he wasn't allowed to be impeached. It's just, oh shoot, I gotta go. Love you guys. Thanks for coming. I'm back in LA in a couple hours. I'll hit the ground. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for your support. Big shout out to Chevy. East Carbon Exposed. I owe you a phone call. I'm sorry you and I haven't talked yet. As you can see, I'm doing a lot of stuff. I got 3 minutes. Love you. See you guys on the next one. Later, Gators.